What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. We finally received the power plant we're going to be putting into the GSR Integra. It is sitting on the pallet outside. We have not dove into it just yet, but we will in a moment. Big shout out to the shipping company for delivering it close to my garage door. Makes it easy for me to work on it and also maneuver it underneath the engine bay when it is ready to go into the car. Now, if you guys haven't seen the last video, be sure to go back and check it out. We introduced the car to the channel, showing you guys a bunch of new parts we're going to be using for this build series, and we went straight to work. Pulled the steering rack out, switched out a lot of the steering components. We got the car to the alignment shop. Shout out to Neela for getting the car straightened out. Got it back home, let it cooled off, went straight to yanking the engine out of the car, and also prepped the engine bay a little bit for this swap. I did come out here yesterday to have a little off day with the car. I did a bunch of research on some of the new things to me that we're going to be doing with this swap. It is a K series and we are keeping AC, so I had to do some research on the hybrid kit to know what lines you're supposed to keep to use with the new provided hard lines, and I also had to figure out the relay setup. But big shout out to Eric because he already did his research and he sent me all the links to it. Another thing I had to figure out was the fuel line from Ktuned. This is a tuck style center feed setup, so it's a little bit different than the traditional left and right side fuel line that I usually do in all of my cars. So I had to figure that out a little bit, so that way when I make these videos for you guys on each segment, it'll be very nice and thorough instead of trying to figuring out as we go. I will say right now though, I'm not entirely sure if the engine will be ready to go in tonight, but the goal is to have it in the car by the time this video is over. By the looks of the photo of the engine, it did come with a lot of the stuff that was in the engine bay where the engine came from, and we need to remove a lot of the stuff that we're not going to be using from it. So with that being said, let's head outside and reveal this engine that's sitting on the pallet. EP3. Okay. All right. Let's dive into this. I can feel the ECU is right here. All right, so there you guys have it, another redhead. This is a K20a EP3 Type R. Simplest, easiest dead giveaway is the shift cables itself, because it uses this style shifter cables, and also it doesn't have power steering. It has an EP3 idler pulley, and obviously the EP3 power steering is on the steering rack on the firewall. So this is a dead giveaway. ECU is PRD, but it's pretty cool to see that they pretty much included just about everything that came out of the car. So obviously the motor mounts, we're not going to need that. We are going to be retaining the post mount. This comes with obviously no power steering, but we are going to utilize the AC, so that means this belt is what we're going to be using. Everything here is going to stay exactly the same. Comes with the AC lines, which we're not going to be using. It comes with engine harness, which looks to be fully intact, right? Because obviously it's still connected to the ECU. And it comes with the charge harness that I noticed right here. Starter, alternator, goes around over here. It even comes with the fuse box. Yeah, so the charge harness is still fully intact. Obviously the shift cables, they didn't cut it. Some places they just cut it, but they actually pulled it all the way through, so that'll be useful to somebody who's using an EP3 shifter, or in the case of like a TSX or Honda Accord. Heater hoses, heater valve, comes with half a header, which I've never seen before. It's got 2 outlets on it. Half shaft is on there. Rear motor mount bracket, we're not going to use that. Transmission bracket is also on here. Yeah, it doesn't look like there's much to remove off of this engine, so that's good. That's good. We're going to use this thing exactly the way it is on this pallet. We don't have a clutch to change out, which most of the time these engines come with low mileage, so I'm almost certain the clutch is okay to use out of the box. We're not going to change any timing components because we don't have any of those as well, which means we're not going to pop the valve cover to do any other maintenance in there, like valve lash and all that stuff. So yeah, looks pretty clean for the most part. I'm sorry, I had to roll the GSR out here to get all the red heads together, including mine. Tell me that does not look sick. All right, let's get to work. We're not needing the EP3 motor mount, so that comes off. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop these lines off. We do have a Ktuned slave, so I'm gonna pop this off. Shift cables, we have hybrid racing units, so I'm gonna pop these guys off as well. Shift cables off. We don't need this motor mount, so I'm gonna remove this as well. There we go. We don't need this either. There we go. We are not using the factory engine harness, so I'm gonna go ahead and remove the harness. There it is, engine harness, charge harness, fuse box, ECU, out. Do not need this front mount. Heater hoses. A lot of these brackets we'll figure out if we're keeping or removing them later. We're gonna remove the rear T-bracket. And there we go. I'll be honest, after kind of going through the engine, this thing is ready to go in the car, to be honest with you guys. I'm not gonna lie, I did try to scrub the manifold a little bit. You can kind of see how it's all clean up here, and I don't have any more acid cleaner as much as I want to clean this thing up. It's kind of sort of clean for the most part. It was just a lot of gunk built up underneath the iVTEC cover. So the engine itself, man, I'm looking at it like for the last 20 minutes, realistically, honestly, aside from changing out the oleum filter, I think this thing is ready to go into the car. Everything that might be an interference in the engine bay with the K20 is out of the way for the most part. I think the only thing I'm going to do right now is zip tie all of these guys out of the way, because yesterday I looked at the conversion harness and it doesn't plug to any of these guys as well as any of those up in the corner. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to zip tie these guys out of the way, right? And I think after that, we're gonna unbox the motor mounts to get that sucker in here. Okay, so I got all the wires tucked over here, one zip tie right there, and the battery tray still goes on, and I'm able to bolt it flat without compressing on the harness. Looks a lot cleaner here without it dangling. And I need to remove this bracket because we're no longer using it. Also, I got to make sure I have enough space to kind of snake the engine harness through. I'm gonna try to go through this hole here, cut the grommet a little bit, and feed the harness through before the battery and the tray. It might be a tight fit just because the AC line and everything is going to be right here in this general area. And worst case scenario, I did get the go from Eric to cut the firewall if needed be, and we have this this oval right here that I can cut. I do have a grommet and a plate to go here if I decide to go this route, but most definitely gonna try this part first before cutting the firewall itself. So this right here looks good for the most part. The mounts that we're using is K2, which is for the K series 9295 Civic and the 94-01 Integra. This one right here is the rear mount. This is what we need to install first before the engine because it sits on the rear subframe. This right here is the transmission bracket that bolts onto the transmission, and then the mount sits on right here. This is a different design than the EF one. Interesting. This right here is the passenger mount that sits on the post mount that goes onto the bracket that sits on the frame rail. This car is front wheel drive, so this is the front wheel drive T-bracket for the front wheel drive transmission. Bolts to the block and transmission, and then it goes to the rear mount that goes to the subframe. Right here we have the transmission mount. This one goes onto the bracket we just showed you guys a second ago, and this is also a dual height kit, so you can flip it to go high or flip it to go low. Even says it right there, K flip, with a patent on it. This right here is the passenger frame rail mount. This is the one we need to drill into the frame rail to bolt the bracket all the way through, because this one does not need to be welded in. We got to do this after doing the rear mount. K2 hardware kit, all the bolts, nuts, and washer. I've done this so many times I kind of know where all these go. Now between the three hardware, there is one longer one right here, and that's for the front of the mount, because you see the little spacer right here. Yes sir. Rear Hasport rear mount installed with washers on all of the bolts. So the passenger frame rail mount, this piece right here, these two bottom holes are supposed to line up to the two 14 mil provisions for the transmission torque mount. So I'm going to use these two bolts right here to align the bracket on the bottom to know where the top will land, so we can mark out the holes to drill for the bolts to go all the way through. Now this is a little tricky because the car has ABS, and this part of the bracket interferes with this leg right here. Now I can cut the leg to clear the mount, or I can set the leg on top of the mount. We'll figure out what we'll do with it once we get this bracket into place. But pull the 12 mil off, pull the bracket up, slide the frame rail bracket on, and I'm gonna go ahead and align the bottom. With just the two bolts on the bottom and the bracket flushed up against the frame rail, we kind of have an idea of where the hole that we need to drill needs to be. I'll go ahead and take my white marker and mark out the holes This one again is a little tricky because the ABS stuff is in the way. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm probably gonna remove the rest of the 12 mil to move the ABS up so I can have access to that hole. Double check the bracket. Alrighty, so it both threads. I'm gonna go ahead and pull the bolts out, put some paint on the bare metal, and then we're gonna bolt this bracket down. I'm probably gonna end up cutting this leg off right here because it definitely interferes with the bolt. So I got the bolts through with the washer. It is secured in the torque mount provision. And then I don't know if you guys can see it, but there's two nuts right there as well too. Secured, bracket solid. And I did trim the ABS bracket a little bit to fit the contour of the mount. And all I got to do is put these 12s back on. The 3 should be plenty of strong and kind of blends in a little bit, right? Not too shabby. So Eric, the owner of this Integra, came by just a minute ago and we were kind of just talking about the process here, and he also came to pick up the steering rack core to send it back out to get his money back, and also picked up the ECU, which he's going to core out to the homie Nomis Industries because he's picking up a K-Pro V4 for the car. So I'm back on the car now, and the goal is still to get the engine into the car tonight, and after looking at just about everything here, I think we're ready to do that. I almost forgot something. Now, this is not something you need to put a K in your car. This is more of an upgrade. So I went through the parts list and I forgot that we have HD detent springs that we need to install before the transmission bracket because it sits underneath that. I'll show it to you guys. Right here we have the Hybrid Racing HD detent springs. Heavy duty, part number right there. And we also have the shift selector spring as well. These are also upgraded, and this is going to make your shifts a lot smoother, a lot more crispier, and feel more mechanical. I like the mechanical feel over the super duper soft like shifts. That's just a personal preference for me. Again, you don't need this for case swap in your car. This is a preference, and this is just an upgrade to your shifter setup. These 3 bolts right here is what holds the detent spring on top of the shift fork, and this is the trans bracket right here that sits right over it, so you won't have access to it when you get this bolted on. So it's important to do it beforehand. Here's spring number 1, spring number 2, and spring number 3. Make sure the balls are in there. Spring 1, spring 2, and I just want to show you guys really quickly the difference. Look at the height difference. Hybrid Racing, factory. When you put the bolts back on, make sure the crush washer is on there, and make sure that this is threaded. Thread it before you decide to shoot it with a gun, because you don't want to strip the threads out. Ask me how I know. Light UGA. Now we're ready to put this engine and transmission in the car. I'm gonna change out the oil filter while it's easy to access it now. All right, guys, we have the K20a Type R EP3 swap into the GSR Integra's engine bay, and this was a breeze, man. There's a lot more space in the DC chassis than it is in the EF. So the engine slit underneath, we jacked the car up with my 3-ton Harbor Freight Daytona jack with a, I don't know what size this piece of wood is, but I used that to pretty much brace the left and the right side underneath the chassis with a jack centered, jacked it all the way up, slid the engine underneath, lowered it, and I pretty much aligned all of the mounts loosely in place, make sure everything's threaded. Then I bolted everything down. It is still kind of hanging out because the rear mount is not on just yet, but I also got a request from Eric to have the engine on the highest setting for better ground clearance. So on the high setting, simple enough, top bolt right there. You see the bottom hole right there, bottom hole. So top is gonna have the better ground clearance, and then on this mount we have it flipped. I don't know how to explain this, but we have it flipped, curved. The bushing on the bottom curves more than it does on the top. If you have it the other way, it'll drop the engine lower. And then the rear bracket right here has 2 bolt holes as well, and I believe on the high setting would be the bottom bolt, but we'll find that out right now. So this is the last piece I need to bolt in, and then we can tighten all of the mount bolts to secure this engine into place. So last night I put the rear mount on and tightened up all of the bolts. The engine is permanently in place. This thing is not going anywhere. And honestly, I don't remember what durometer is the mounts, but it feels pretty solid inside the car. So the engine's in place. It's on the high setting, and it's crazy to look at it like it looks like it's on the low setting, but it's not. It's on the high setting, and it has a lot of clearance between the hood and the floor. Check it out. Dude, this engine looks like it sits low, although it is a K20 and not a 24. The ground clearance, aside from the oil pan just a little bit right there, that is a lot of ground clearance. You guys, DC EGEK owners with K-Swap, you guys got it easy. The EF, man, it's a little tough with trying to get ground clearance or hood clearance with our chassis, but you know, we like a challenge, right? So today I want to continue with this video, guys. I want to install the axles because this car doesn't have a traction bar and they don't really need one, although I recommend you to have one. The newer chassis above EF uses the A arm and it doesn't need the traction bar to keep your caster straight. So all I need is just the axles on both sides, and then we can put the entire suspension back together and have the wheel well area all said and done. I'm also probably going to do the clutch line, since we removed the factory hard line that went across over there for the B&D guys. We need to put the fitting on, run the clutch line and the slave to go to the transmission, get that out of the way. And I think the other big thing I want to do today is the shifter box and the shifter cables. This is going to be mounted underneath the car. We'll take you guys along on how to do that, and I want to get that out of the way for the next phase, which is probably going to be the exhaust and the header setup. And then I'll say this right now, we're going to keep the cooling system and the AC all together because the AC has to go on first before the cooling system, so that'll be in its own entire video. But enough yapping, let's grab the axles and show you guys what we got before I put it into the car, wherever it's at. Come here, yo sucker. You came a little late for feeding time, my boy, but here you go. Here you go. Okay, so when I first revealed these axles, I didn't know where they came from, so I assumed they were auto part store axles. After talking to Eric, he said that these are actually insane 500 horsepower axles for EG, EK, and DC. So these are insane K-swap axles for DC, EG, and EK. Again, guys, this is insane shaft 500 horsepower 32 millimeter K-swap axles for EG, DC, and EK. I'm gonna go ahead and slap these inside the car. They have a little cap on the transmission. That's pretty cool. Cotter pin. That's it. Done. Clean up the surface right here of the old RTV, apply some new sealant, and go ahead and reinstall this. So we're going to be using the Hybrid Racing no cut shifter box, part number HYB-SAS-01-06. This mounts in the tunnel underneath the car, so that way you can retain your OEM center console and make it look sleek in the interior. Hybrid Racing shift cables. This is not the race style. I don't think it has that OEM sleeve on it, and these right here are going to work great. I believe these are the same ones that I have in my blue all-wheel drive sedan, and I love the way these feel. This right here is the no cut shifter box. Again, mounts underneath the tunnel. The gasket goes in between. This right here is threaded, so you're gonna have to bolt this box from inside the car underneath the console, and then the two in the back right here actually mounts from underneath, so we need to take off this plate right here, and then this is going to get bolted to the existing 12 mil nut on the tunnel for the B series shift linkage rear bushing. So I'm gonna go ahead and disassemble these Allens right here. So instead of struggling underneath the car, I took the gasket off the shifter, and if you look right here, we have the provisions for the B series shift linkage rear bushing. These are threaded for 12 mil. So I took the hardware from the Hybrid Racing box, and I'm gonna go ahead and thread this into the hole to kind of align the gasket. One there and one there. Straighten out your gasket a little bit here, and where these guys land, I'm gonna go ahead and mark it because I'm gonna drill it out. So when I go underneath the car, be it a one shot. So general area somewhere there, and then same thing on this side, general area somewhere there. I'll double check it, and I'm doing it this way just to make it a one shot when I'm underneath the car rather than crawl in and out 1,000 times. So let's go ahead and drill that out. I'm going to remove this factory shield because we have some big tube header and it's going to interfere this whole section right here. Shifter goes into the hole. I am going to bolt the two in the rear, and then I'm gonna go inside the car to do the two on the top. Hybrid Racing no cut shifter box installed. Bolt 1, 2 from underneath, 3 and 4. I'm gonna go ahead and put the center console back on so we can attach the second piece to the shifter and then the shift knob. Oh, there's a piece of my latex glove on my thumb. All right, guys, so the last piece to the shifter inside the car is this attachment right here. Hybrid Racing, yes sir. So I'm gonna center the swivel point, and I'm gonna leave the adjustment height the way it is. Let Eric figure that out for himself, whatever is more comfortable to him. They are splined, so obviously set it beforehand and then lock it in. So we're putting it dead centered. Crank this one as well. We are retaining the stock shift knob. All right, so it's loose right now because we still need to do these shift cables. Hybrid Racing shift cables, let's get these installed. Now I'm gonna feed this over the subframe and then loop it around the sway bar to go to the shifter box. Hopefully there's enough space to kind of clear this giant piece right here on the cables, but if need to be, we'll drop the sway bar just to kind of snake it through. So we have the Hybrid Racing shift cables installed into the Hybrid Racing no cut shifter box, all secured over here, and the kit did come with a little bracket to kind of retain both the cables using one of these holes right here. But if you guys see, the cable's a little long, so it kind of throws it off track of being secured down right there. So it looks like we're not going to be able to use the bracket no matter how much I try to bend it. I don't want to put too much bind on the cable. So with that being said, I think it'll be out of the way enough to clear the header. If anything, I'll probably zip tie it up even higher to ensure it doesn't like droop over time on top of the header. But I'm gonna go ahead and put the cover back on right here, and the cover's on. I want to show you guys the shifter real quick before we move on to the last thing for tonight. I will say I love how tight it is and how notchy it feels. It's like a real good mechanical feel. The B series shifter that was in here before was like super freaking soft, like really soft. Nothing compared to a shifter shift cable setup. Hybrid Racing no cut shifter with Hybrid Racing shift cables. Let me show you guys. First, second, third, fourth, fifth. This is an EP3 Type R LSD transmission, 6-speed. So we got 6, and then all the way to the right, we got reverse. Love it. Love it. Last task for tonight, we're going to be doing the clutch line from the master to the clutch slave on the transmission. This box Ktuned clutch slave cylinder, Ktuned stainless steel clutch line, comes with all the fittings right here. We also have a Ktuned throttle cable and bracket. Shoot, you know what, let's just install this as well too. Part number right there. So the clutch line comes with a couple of different fittings, because if you guys didn't know, the clutch master cylinder does come with 2 different sizes for the outlet. So find the one that fits your clutch master. We got the Ktuned stainless steel brake line right here. We have a 180 on this end and a 90 on this end right here. So the 180 is going to be on the clutch master, and then the 90 is going to be on the clutch slave. Last thing to install for tonight, Ktuned throttle cable and bracket. Hopefully this will fit with the stock throttle body. I mean, it has two pieces to the adapter. So, oh, there's 3 of them actually. 1, 2, and 3. So the OEM hardware does not fit in the lower bracket, but the kit didn't come with any hardware either. So yeah, I went through my bin and I was fortunate to find 2 Allen headed bolts that would fit in this bracket. Let's get it installed. Before the top bracket, so we can figure out which one we need, because there's 2 of them obviously. Ktuned throttle cable and bracket installed, not too loose, not too tight. Installed on the pedal as well too. And I'm gonna find a way to secure this to kind of make it look a little cleaner. We do have some length, but that's done. I know it's only the second video to this build series, guys, but we made a ton of progress on the GSR Integra with the K-swap. We came out here today, we received the engine, we threw it in the car with the Hasport motor mounts. Unfortunately, we were missing a couple of hardware, but because I have a car that was K, that's kind of sitting and waiting around, we took all the hardware from that to get the engine into the Integra, and then we tackled a bunch of other miscellaneous stuff like the shifter box, the shifter cable, the clutch line and slave. We did the Ktuned throttle cable and bracket. The axles are in, the front suspension is all said and done, and man, realistically, it's not that much more stuff to do to get this car to turn on. I know I'm making it sound hella easy and all, but realistically, you know, wiring harness, header, fuel system, program ECU, ground cables, dude, I can fire the car. But because there's so much other little things to do, we're going to be tackling a lot of that moving forward this week. So I know I said in the beginning of the video that we're going to be doing a bunch of parts in separate videos, because obviously this is a new chassis to the channel that I'm doing a full build on, and I want to make it as thorough as possible, which means, like I mentioned, is the AC cooling system is going to be in its own video. I think header and exhaust system is going to be in its own video, and then we have obviously the miscellaneous stuff, the fuel line, the fuel pressure regulator, the engine harness, a bunch of little stuff to really button it all up for its first startup. So with that being said, guys, I am going to wrap it up for tonight. It is currently 10:39. I hope you guys enjoyed the progress update on the GSR Integra case swap. If you guys enjoyed this one, be sure to leave a thumbs up. And if you guys want to stick around for the rest of the process to get this car ready for its first startup, be sure to hit the subscribe button. But with that being said, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.